Welcome back, everyone, to the Portal to Ascension show. I'm your host, Joan of Angels. We do online and in-person events, and if you want to find out more, go to portaltoascension.org. Now, are you ready? There is a moment many people are reaching right now, could be you, where what used to work no longer does, and what's calling you forward doesn't yet have a language. So these are the conversations I love the most. You're going to love our guest, Anya Starlight. We'll be talking about where consciousness meets embodiment and curiosity opens doors we didn't even know were available. So as I said, I'm Dr. Joan Hangarter. I'm also known as Joan of Angels. I work as a personal strategy advisor, executive producer, including my role with New Living Expo. I support people, especially women, through pivotal transitions where clarity, discernment, and grounded perspective truly matter. And so people usually find me through referrals and meaningful conversations. So if you feel a resonance, just reach out, loves. So we're going to be talking to Anya Starlight. She is going to be a speaker and a vendor at our upcoming New Living Expo, and I'm going to show you that video so you can get as excited as I am about it.
The world is changing faster than ever before, and within this evolution, a new consciousness is rising. At the New Living Expo, thousands gather to expand consciousness, explore new conscious technologies, ancient wisdom, and the future of human potential. Immerse yourself in 3 days of heart-expanding wisdom and mind-binding awareness, with over 90 speakers sharing tools to awaken your highest potential. 125 exhibitors, 3,000 attendees, awakened souls unite in one powerful weekend of learning, healing, and connection. Experience transformation, connection, and the next chapter of human evolution. It is time for humanity to awaken. Join us at newlivingexpo.com.
Amazing. How can you resist? I am so excited about it. And I think after meeting our guest, you will be excited about it too. So we're going to be bringing up Anya Starlight. I met her last year at Conscious Life Expo. She's actually an amazing woman. She's a multidimensional medicine carrier, an international channel, transformational guide, and a light weaver. She has a background as a Washington, D.C. attorney, a science degree in psychology, and she is a bridge between the practical and the esoteric with rare clarity. She's a conversational and trance channel for the Council of the Central Sun and a wide spectrum of multidimensional intelligences, while remaining deeply devoted to embodiment, healing, and joy as her lived experience. So let's welcome Anya Starlight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So nice to see you, Anya.
Oh, it's so wonderful to be with you, Joan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you and to speak with your audience today, too.
Right? We are really excited to work with you. So the first thing I noticed when I was looking at your bio is that you're an attorney who must have had an amazing awakening. And so for those of us who don't know your backstory, I just really have to hear it.
Well, it was, I think, something that many who have been on this journey will feel. I was really sensitive as a child. I knew things that made other people really uncomfortable. And I always had these other awarenesses. I had friends that no one else could see. I could talk to animals and just lots of different experiences. I had a special knack for having a sense when people were going to transition. I would see spirits in the room and I would talk about them. And so it really created a situation where most people around me didn't know what to do with that. And it wasn't their lived experience. And so there really began to be something that I was told repeatedly that either things weren't true, even though they would suddenly later happen. So it really created this environment for me where I started to keep that to myself. And really didn't know how to be in the world. I didn't know how the world that I was more comfortable in, which no one else seemed to experience and was much more real, but the other world really required me to participate. And so I went through a period where I tried to turn that down. I often talk about it as like the knob on an old-fashioned radio. And it was more successful at certain periods in my life, but I really became I adopted, shall we say, I adopted a lot of what was the conditioning that was around me, the desire for perfectionism and people pleasing and other things as means of coping and trying to fit in. And I also grew up in a very challenging household just because of their own conditioning. And so my gifts, which I look at them as gifts now, really helped me to learn to navigate that environment and the world around me. So it was never something that I was willing to, and I don't think you actually can turn it off completely, but it was never something that I really let go of. And I found ways to cope with that. Swimming was a really big water in particular, but swimming was a really big component of my survival mechanisms through my younger years. But as I was an overachiever, I did really well in school and I love to learn. I'm so excited by learning everything that we can learn. And so school was an environment in which I could excel. And I became more and more sensitive as I got into college. And then I ended up having a particular breakup and a change of life circumstances and didn't know who I was or which direction I was going in. And so I had gone back home after college and I was trying to decide what to do next. And at that point, I decided, well, everyone expects me to do this and I know how to do it. So I'm going to go to law school. And there were some wonderful aspects to that. And it also really showed me in a very, I can be what I refer to as rather stubborn. And it really showed me that this was not the life for me. It took about 10 years for me to really get that message. But I went to law school and I excelled in law school. I ended up becoming a corporate litigator, which is not something that one would imagine necessarily that I would do, but it also gave me a skill set that really allows me to bridge corporate America to the spiritual experience. And as we open more and more into blending science and spirituality, which is just life and spirituality, I think it gives me perspective to really help to ground into practical ways for people, having had those experiences myself, working 100-hour weeks and things which are very different than the life I am living now. But it also really gave me the felt sense experience of the old energies that we've all been living in for thousands of years, and challenge and how things have to be hard and earned, and to really work with those energies and learn how to alchemize them and to discover my own self-worth and my own value and to learn how to work in the world with ease. And it's really been this beautiful alchemy of embracing my gifts, because I worked in corporate law for about 10 years. And then my ex-husband, who had this wanderlust, which among many of his other lovely qualities, came home one day. I was living in DC, and he said, he was also an attorney. We had met in law school. He said, "I hope you don't mind, but I applied for a job in Hawaii." And I thought, oh my God, Hawaii, we had been considering leaving DC, but it wasn't even in the realm of what we were considering. And as soon as he said it, I felt the resonance of the idea. And I knew that that's what we were, quote unquote, supposed to be doing next. I knew that that was the next gateway on the path. And it also posed so many challenges for us. He had to go ahead. I lived on my own and wrapped up our lives there. And both of our families lived on the East Coast. I knew no one there. And it then created this tension with, do I stay in my job or not? And again, like I said, sometimes I call it a spiritual 2x4. I don't need one so much anymore, but I did back then. And so I commuted. I worked in Hawaii, and I commuted back and forth from Hawaii for a number of years before I gave up the job. And I really came to the point where I couldn't, it was too emotionally and physically challenging. It was too much dissonance. And I felt the calling of the land and the energies. I really felt the calling of myself to a different path. My soul calling was coming through. And just about when everything got to the point where it was going to crack, I found Reiki, and I was still having more and more of my sensitivities online. But 3 people in the same day mentioned Reiki to me. And this was about, I would say, 2007. And I knew that repetitive information, especially in a really short window of time, was a real indicator that I needed to pay attention. And I did. And the very next day, there happened to be an informational session on Reiki nearby that I attended, not knowing why. I was just following the pull. And from that very first informal meeting, I suddenly began to experience energy in totally different ways. I ended up taking the course and have since gone through multiple levels of Reiki training through mastery and teaching. But it was the first real, my whole world shuffled. I began to see and experience energy in totally different ways. And all of the self-imposed filters that I had used as coping mechanisms just dissolved. And it was a process of really losing all of the identities that I had ascribed to myself. And sometimes that happened with multiple of them dissolving at the same time. And at other times it was in sequence, but it began this really profound period of transformation in my life. But I'm very grateful. At that time, I wasn't so grateful for having gone and been an attorney, but everything we do contributes to where we are and who we are now. And it all plays a role. There are no mistakes. And so as I've incorporated that, I really see the ability it gives me for perspective and understanding, and being able, as I said, to really ground and create practical steps when working with people that they can then experience and have that felt sense of, because that felt sense, the body is becoming more and more in line. We're no longer disassociated as much from the body as we come out of this illusion of separation that we've been in, and we're beginning to have the body turn on in different ways, and that energetic interface in the body that's allowing us to experience things. So that felt sense really has an impact, even if people, just like you said in the beginning, don't know quite how to describe it yet. It's a totally new language that the body is beginning to speak, but it's such clarity and it's such knowingness that's leading us back to that it's transformational. Nothing works anymore in the same way. The coping mechanisms don't work. The same things we used to do don't feel as fulfilling. There's that inner desire to explore and find something else, the knowingness that there's more than we've been taught. And I am so excited about that, because it's going to change our world.
Okay, that was so dramatic, Anya. Just to first of all, to see you as a corporate attorney, and your story, you know, so many of our audience have had corporate lives, and they had this life, and then they had this like awakening. Sometimes it's fast, like almost the next day, or sometimes it's over an extended period of time. But I could see you were probably enmeshed in that corporate attorney kind of thinking until they had to break you free. And so Hawaii sounds like it was the beginning of breaking you slowly but steadily, getting you out of there.
It really was, and I'm really grateful for the experience of it. And you know, hindsight and retrospect do a lot to make that to really help you see what my guidance team always calls the gems and the nuggets, the treasure that you didn't quite notice when you were in the moment, but that we're becoming more able to see when we're in the process of. But yeah, and you know, I'm excited because there've been so many who've been awakening through the years, and they're really the bridges to those that will be coming forward. There's just going to be so many waves of awakening in these next 2 years in particular, that the people who have really been working at it and going through these processes of transformation are creating the pathways and the bridges to make that a much faster process.
Yeah, right. So that's an interesting thing. You said there's so many ways of awakening, and you're seeing that more and more people are going to be awakening come 2026 and beyond. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like what you're seeing for us then.
It's really interesting. The way that I work with a whole series of guides, both the Council of the Central Sun, as well as various ascended masters and other galactic beings and elementals. But they all have really said that 2026 is a new dawn. Even it's like we've crossed a threshold. We hear about it as a 1 year and that it's all about new beginnings, but it's really about a fundamental restructuring of the energies that we are in. We think of ourselves as physical beings first, but we're actually energetic beings first. And so we're beginning to get glimpses of the fact that everything is based on energy. We've heard this, but we're actually getting more of a lived experience of that now. And so with the perception of ourselves as energetic beings and the experience of that, we can start to tap into creating our lives in a new way and recognizing that we do create our lives. And that everything is, as Tesla said, vibration, frequency, and energy, and how to really actively work with that. So we are seeing now that the part of what's going to happen in 2026 is because of these new energetic infrastructures, that the old infrastructures that have been based in fear and separation and the other illusions that we've all been living under for thousands of years are dissolving. Our consciousness has raised to a point where the energetics don't support that infrastructure any longer. And so we're also having an internal infrastructure come online in a new way because our frequencies are higher. And so all of the secrecy, for example, all of the things that have been hidden or forgotten are beginning to percolate under the surface. They're beginning to come forward. And all of that information is actually within us, but we're beginning to experience that in new ways. And so people are suddenly, again, finding that things don't work or finding that they have new interests, or suddenly their job, which they've been in for 20 years, they have no interest in being there and they're being called to something entirely different that everyone in their life thinks might be crazy. But it's because the infrastructure of energy inside and outside of us supports all of this revelation of information and ancient wisdom. But especially in 2026, because that external infrastructure isn't there, we're suddenly going to hear more about the truths of what's really been going on. And what's really been hidden, and that we have technologies that we don't know about as a collective, and that we have abilities that we don't quite know about, and healing abilities of the body will come online, and telepathy will come more and more online, in particular as the early stages of this. And so how do we work with that? And it's a strange experience. I have so many clients I'm working with, and some of them have had one clair that's active, or some of them couldn't feel energy at all. And now they're sensing things in all different kinds of ways. And it can feel a little like sensory overload at first. But it's about learning to navigate with our innate senses that we've just learned weren't there and ignored and forgotten. And because all of that's been being turned on, it's also creating outside of us that reflection. So I talk about it as we get to be the explorers, adventurers, and scientists of our life. And we're really getting a whole new experience of being able to do that. And that also will really be catalyzed by people finding out all kinds of things that what they thought was true isn't. And that's going to be very interesting. The guides have said it will shake humanity to the very core of its foundation, and that's so a new foundation can be built.
Got it. So you're saying that the outcome of all this disclosure is that, first of all, people may have a hard time understanding because we've been deceived in many, many ways.
Yes.
And part of spiritual awakening is like your eyes open.
Yes. And it's because of the importance of the body, we've been taught disassociation in so many ways, that fear, the guides talk about it, the illusion of separation is the source of fear that we've been living in. And because we've been in a survival consciousness for so long, that we're beginning to learn to come out of that. We're beginning to learn, and they use this modality of creating safety, trust, and balance in your life as creating a new foundation. And what that really does is it allows us to be in the world and to experience the world, creating our own safety. Because anything that's external to us is ephemeral. Anything that's external to us can be taken away. And so it's all about creating that foundation, that knowingness, that self-discovery within, that connectedness to source. Because as spiritual beings, we forgot that we were always connected. And then as we remember, things like linearity start to fade. And then we realize that we are multidimensional beings, but what does that mean, and how do we function in that way? We've been taught to step outside of the body, that enlightenment is getting out of the body. And I spent a whole bunch of my life living from the upper chakras up because I didn't want to be on this planet.
Right. Oh, I get it. I get it.
And now being on the planet is becoming joyful. It's becoming that wonder and that awe. It is that reclamation of that childlike wonder and awe that we're being invited back into the remembrance of. That's really the intention. Joy is really the purpose of life, not this infrastructure or scaffolding that we've believed for so long. And so stepping out of linearity and embracing our multidimensionality is going to be a huge part. We already are that. It's just allowing it and learning how to live that way.
You dropped a lot of nuggets in there. But one of the things that I pulled out of that is a reminder that 2026 starts this whole new cycle.
Yes.
And it is that clearing away of the old, the Aquarian, like as we enter this quote, Aquarian age and new age, it is that clearing away. And many of us are here to be here specifically now.
Yes, I believe we all are. I those of us,
Right?
and I said it just a few minutes ago that, I didn't want to be here either, but we actually all chose to be here. And I had there was this knowingness within that, especially as I continued to dive into more modalities and energy work and things, and especially with the channeling, there was this purpose in all of it, but this blast of heart-centered knowingness, this cosmic heart knowingness came through, that this is the time that we've been waiting for and working towards for thousands of years and lifetimes, and that we're here. And it is such a blessing to be here. And contrary to what we think, being in a human body is actually rather coveted. It's actually a huge contribution that we're making to the evolution of all consciousness. And so it's really an exciting time. I know it seems very messy and sometimes very chaotic and dramatic, and that there are really tremendous challenges going on in the world. But all of that is part of this. It's all part of this metamorphosis in remembrance and in this awakening. And so I find it really exciting to be here and to be blessed to be here, and that everyone else is here, because everybody has a unique piece to share in this journey.
You have a great perspective, because I know so many people want to be in these up above realms, the higher dimensions. Living here on the earth has been challenging, but you're kind of pointing out that this is a turning point for all of us. This is why we came here is about to emerge.
Exactly. And it's the encouragement to keep going, that's what they always say, just keep going. It's gonna get better. It's already better. You may not quite sense that in its fullness yet, but there's this underlying excitement to the energy of what's possible, because we have been living in such constraint, and now possibility becomes, saying in the past, and they often say that everything is limitless. You are a limitless being. And that's really hard for many people to embrace in their brains. Their mind immediately comes up with a whole list of things as to why that's not true. But as we learn to work with energy, we realize how much possibility is out there, that the old limits were just false constraints, and we just didn't know how to do it. So I think, again, that's the adventurer, that's the explorer, that's the scientist, that's the bridge. Everything, nothing is mundane. All of it's part of our spiritual journey. And so how do we bring that to, and we're allowed to have joy. And there are so many things in this world that are rich experiences that we can't have any other place in the same way. And when we start to feel into the texture that creates in life, the color and the texture of the tapestry of that, it becomes even more exciting as to what can I explore next, and what might next pop up that would be really interesting. And again, that doesn't mean there won't be challenge. It's challenging now. It doesn't mean that we won't have that, but how we respond to that is what we're being offered to shift and change, and taking it on as what they often say, and I really enjoy this, is brand new rules to the game. You came down and you thought you had rules to this game, but you're being you're remembering the real rules to this game. And that way you can embrace it in a whole new way. And I really love that. It makes it a lot more fun.
I love that too. In fact, you've actually really gotten me even more excited now about like 2026 and what's happening, and the New Living Expo. So I want to talk about it now, because coming together is a big part of this awakening. Like, it's one thing to be watching each other on the show and connecting online, but let's talk about when you're physically present, and actually what you're going to be doing there. Also, we might as well do it all right now.
Okay, that's great. It really is. It's amazing. We've heard about one or more people coming together, but it creates a different energetic field. So we each have that energetic field, and the energetic fields come together and create this resonance that gets bigger and bigger. And so transformation can simply happen just by walking through the door. It's not just the mind, it's a full body, full feeling, full experience. And it allows the possibility for all of these pieces within you to be kindled and activated. What we're really doing, in part of what I'll be doing is, so my topic for my lecture is going to be dissolving limitations, the unseen becomes seen. And really what that is what we were talking about a little bit, that now we'll be able to see all of these light infusions that have been coming into the planet, allow us to see the things that we weren't able to see before. And that really dissolves limitations on our perceptions and opens us up to so much more. And when multiple beings who are all working at different facets of this beautiful prism come together, we begin to see the lattice and work within that energetic lattice. And it creates this wonderful sense of exploration, this wonderful sense of what might be kindled in me next. And as we talk about our DNA being activated, group events like this one in particular, of such high vibration, when you are physically in that space, it allows the energetic interface within each of us to vibrate at a higher frequency. And that's what unlocks what's latent and dormant in our DNA. So being in this kind of environment is not just stimulating for our minds, but it's actually stimulating our DNA. And the council has said that they're going to do a specific DNA activation during the lecture, which will really help people to integrate a lot of these changes so that they don't feel so wonky, both physically, the way time is moving, but really to help with the integration of that, because it will accelerate or allow that energetic interface to come more online, I think is an easy way to describe it. But we're all being rebooted, and we really get a significant upgrade by being all together in a space like this, because all of the frequencies align. It's all about that coherence and that alignment. And And the joy that people have in being together and sharing in these experiences really amplifies those frequencies. So it gives everybody a boost. And that's one of the reasons I think these are spectacular events. And I'm so grateful that Portal to Ascension is doing this. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it. It's an extraordinary opportunity.
Well, it is. And I call it soul family. You know, it's our galactic star family. And what you're all going to find, at least what I find, is that I love everyone. People walk in and I feel like even if I haven't met them before, there's a soul resonance like, oh my God, we were together, you know, and suddenly I'll think of Greece or something. But you're with Star Family. It's not like the regular world. It is not like going home to your parents, you know, or even like being with your normal friends. It is like with someone who's like your second skin, in a
Yes.
sense. Yeah.
And
That's what a portal does.
Exactly. And it, you know, so many of us, and I've heard so many clients said, and I've said myself, like, I want to be seen, and I want to be seen as my authentic self. And I have never felt that I could be my authentic self. And so in this kind of environment, all of you is welcome. Your authentic self is welcome. And for some people, it's the first time that they get to express that. And what a joy that is to create a space where people can feel safe to do that, because then they'll take that out and everything in their life shifts
Right.
as a result.
And new friends, yeah, it becomes very exciting. And it's so interesting. Actually, my awakening happened at New Living Expo many, many, many years ago. I used to have a booth there as a chiropractor 100 years ago, I think. But then even in other ways, like really, honestly, I love this. I love that we're talking about it. Let's talk about your guides and who you work with and the councils that you work with. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. The guides shift and change and come in depending on the person that I'm working with at a specific point in time. I've been very blessed. In addition to that, they can include ascended masters, they can include family members that come by with messages, they can include all sorts of elementals, star beings, all various galactic families, especially in particular healing sessions and activations. All of the star families are becoming more and more involved, and sometimes we're on ships working with them, and it's really a fascinating experience. The Council of the Central Sun is this magnificent energy of, it's celestial, I think is how I would describe it most. And it's a promise. It's a fulfillment of a promise to humanity. It's the remembrance and the seeding and activation of that Christ consciousness, the remembrance of love, the remembrance of being part of all that is. And the absolute love that comes through the council and the activations is really hard to actually put into words. It's a very, very powerful feeling. And their guidance is very gentle in some ways, but it's incredibly impactful. But it is this promise that was made to humanity that it would never be abandoned, because we can't be abandoned. We're part of that source energy. And so they're really here to provide some very profound guidance and transmissions of cosmic remembrance and cosmic energy that connects back in with that cosmic heart. It's a very powerful alchemy also of all of the density that we've been in. And I'm really enjoying how that work continues to expand as well. And there have been more and more messages. Both, I have worked a tremendous amount with the Guardian in Mount Shasta also. And then the beings that live on in and around Mount Shasta, or those that come to visit. So that's been a lot of fun too. And so I will be doing more work with the Guardian of the Mountain, and releasing more work with that later on, probably later on this year. But right now, the bulk of the modality that's come through both the Council of the Central Sun, has been this remembrance of seeing through illusions, and this call, this clarion call to remember and embrace your multidimensionality, to really embody that, to embody your light, to find ways to create safety, trust, and balance in your life so that you can then experience greater compassion and greater freedom and greater joy, and then coming back to experiencing greater love. And really what light is a combination of love and greater information and ancient wisdom and that remembrance of oneness and interconnectedness. And so it's this call to wholeness. It's this call to the remembrance of wholeness, and what that actually allows us to not only experience, because that's what we came here for, but to experience our ability as co-creative beings. And to do that from a place of love. And the gift of compassion is what love is what we give back to the rest of the universe. And so we've all heard that there's tremendous amount of attention being directed at Earth, and that's why. And so they are here to really hold that core cosmic consciousness, the cosmic heart consciousness, the remembrance of, it's often discussed as Christ consciousness, but it's even bigger than that. And so I'm really tremendously blessed. They're helping to restore us at an energetic level. They're helping to restore the planet. And there's this beautiful transmission of energy that's constantly coming in, and it affects all of us wherever we are, whether we're conscious of it or not. And so it's especially coming through the sun in Sirius and being transmitted through our sun here. So we're getting direct transmissions from the central sun as well. So it's a really powerful opportunity.
Well, it is a powerful opportunity, especially the way you're describing it. Honestly, I'm getting more excited about what's happening around us just by this conversation that we're having. So here's a question that I get sometimes. How can people tell the difference between their connection with their guides and the information they're receiving, and maybe or they're projecting it or spiritually bypassing? Like, how do they really know what's true?
And that's actually, I think, going to be a bigger and bigger question for people, especially with these waves of awakening. And the ego is part of this wonderful construct that has allowed us to survive. And so it comes up with wonderful ways of reappearing when we least expect it and projecting its way into here. But it's really the easiest way to tell is if it's love-based or fear-based. If it's love-based, it's coming from your heart space. You can, and as the body comes online more and more, we'll be able to really feel that and have that felt sense knowingness of that. And that's really what we're working towards. But the mind, in many ways, 2026 will break the mind and break the mind structure. And for some people that will be easier than others, but that's one of the things that they've shared with me. Because the mind currently limits our ability to perceive multidimensionally. And so that's all based on wounding, trauma, and fear. So we're coming out of that, but the mind needs to surrender. And for some, that may be experienced more as a sense of breaking, even though it won't be quite in the clinical sense of that word. But it's really about bringing us back to this aligned knowingness within ourselves, so that when we hear something, we can feel the resonance of the frequency. And that is something we'll get to practice with, because we're learning to not self-abandon. We're learning to what is in our subconscious. We're learning what our motivations are. And again, we have the opportunities to see this in all of the experiences of our lives. So if something is not in alignment, we're getting better and better at feeling what that is. And we really can tell when we're convincing ourselves of something, and we get better and better at the awareness and knowingness of that. Observation is the best tool that we have. Just gently observing what we're doing, why we're doing it, what purpose does it serve for us? and being really honest about, is this my avoidance? Am I in resistance? And resistance pops up so often. And so we can find that with, and that's always the ego. And we can find that with, am I angry? Am I triggered? Am I frustrated? Am I worried? You know, all of the emotions on that end of the spectrum are really indicators that something else is going on here. So what questions can we ask? How can we be more curious? Because, and being compassionate with ourselves. And a lot of times that compassion, to get to that, we really go through a self-forgiveness process because we've been taught and conditioned to abandon ourselves. And so we're coming back to not abandoning ourselves and learning to trust ourselves and love ourselves. And as we go through all of these various processes, we have greater discernment as to which voice is speaking to us. And investigating each one of them, asking questions. The more we do that, again, this is part of why I use the explorer, adventurer, and scientist. The more we do that, the more we can tell of, is this me telling myself something because it's easier, or is this just clear information? And as we continue to work with this, the higher heart and the higher mind, which we get through that connection within, start to work with the intellectual mind. And again, this really brings on the energetic magnetism of people, and things start happening. But it's looking at, am I forcing my will on something? Am I pushing? Do I feel like I will fail? What is motivating me to be in this place? Can I be in stillness? Can I allow things to unfold? Am I judging? Judgment in particular is one of the things that is a real indicator that you are not in alignment with your heart and your higher self. And sometimes judgment is very subtle. Sometimes we don't realize that we're in a mode of judgment. So all of this, again, is making the unseen in us visible. And observing is really how we do that. And that's how we get that discernment of, is it my ego? Is this really true? And that will be a really powerful tool going forward in 26 and 27 and 28, as all this disclosure happens of all different kinds. There'll be disclosure that's intended to create fear. There'll be disclosure that's true. And that inner alignment, as we work with all of this information that's coming in, will help us to, oh, that is true. I don't know why, but I know that that's true. And it helps us get out of the weeds, which I think is going to be very, very a practical tool for us going forward. It sounds very metaphysical, but metaphysics is changing. It is really the mundane and science are all part of spirituality. And so it's really about bringing that as a tool going forward. So, and I think we all get to practice with that in different ways. And everyone brings a different facet of reference for it.
Right. But discernment is so important now.
Yes.
Of everything, because yes, if you see a hologram of the ETs up in the sky, is it a hologram or is it real? Or everything is going to be about tuning into, is it real?
Yes.
For us. And so many of you guys are clairsentient that, this is going to be a time to know because you know, because you know.
Absolutely. And the more you work with that, Claire, the sharper it's going to become. And the more you trust it, the more it's going to open. And if you want other clairs as well, that will lead to those opening too. So it's embodying that empowered presence that we have. And presence is very much the key, I think, to in that discernment. It's not the past, it's not the future, it's not the what ifs. It's right here in this moment. What is that resonance coming in as? And that clairsentience is always on the mark.
So how do you help people navigate all of this, Anya?
I have a number of different offerings. I do a lot of channeling sessions, personal channeling, individual channeling sessions, individual guidance sessions, individual healing sessions. I also have a community offering every other Thursday where the council comes through and does an activation, and we talk about a particular topic and see how the world is affecting everyone. I am embarking on a YouTube channel, and I have this book that I've been working on and it basically discusses and gives an outline of an introduction to the modality I was talking about creating safety, trust, and balance in your life so you can really see through and work with these illusions. And I'm creating both a retreat later in the year to work in person with people on that. And I do that specifically on a healing and coaching program. It's a multi-session package because it really allows you to get in there. Sometimes people need just a drop-in of information, confirmation, more details as to what they're experiencing, what's going on. And sometimes people are really ready to get in. So I offer both programs and individual sessions, but I'm really enjoying expanding the offerings that I have this year and participating in more expos and connecting with people in person too. So it's feels like a very abundant and blossoming year.
It's your coming out year also, it sounds like.
Yes.
Is that your book behind you, by the way?
It is, yes.
Is it easy for you to grab it and just show it to us?
Sure.
I'm so excited for her.
It's called Awakening the Light Within, Letting Go of Illusion and Embracing Your Multidimensionality. And it's a partner book, I will say. The Council of the Central Sun and I worked on it together. There's some channeled information in it as well. And there's a number of the second half of the book gives you really practical exercises to begin to ask yourself these questions. And it's intended to give you a taste and a flavor so that you can begin to do the work on your own of self-discovery. But it's a guide to welcome you into the process because it's a never-ending adventure. We never stop doing this work. And actually we get more and more nuanced into it as it goes along. But it's a beautiful place to start about setting your frequency and being intentional, really living with conscious awareness. So I'm very grateful that that we put this together and to begin to work with people specifically on it. So I also offer a daily energy post, which very often has questions. It's called Today's Energy. It's on the website, and I pull a card each day and use that to kind of guide what the energy of the day is, what you might want to think about and work on, and often questions which are similar to what's included in here. And that really allows you to go into that process. If you're looking for a place to start, it's a great place to start.
I love that. First of all, your book cover is gorgeous. And everything, it sounds like everything you're teaching is all about us learning how to empower us to use our best gifts.
Absolutely. That is really embodied presence. Empowerment is really the whole goal of all of the beings that I've been blessed to work with. It really is about us remembering that we are not disempowered. We are incredibly powerful beings. And even one of the other things that they love to share now is the technological miracles that you will be experiencing, the advances that will come so quickly, pale in comparison to what your physicality is capable of and what you on your own are capable of. So I both am very excited for those advances and also very excited that we are remembering so that we can begin to live in that empowered present way.
Well, and so it is, love. Anya, I want to thank you for your clarity, your integrity, your resonance, and actually the joy, because just talking to you, I feel more joy than when I started the day.
I'm grateful, Joan. Thank you so much for you and for all you contribute to this world. I'm so grateful to know you. Thank you.
Thank you for being you. And guys, her website's been shown. It'll be on the link below. You can meet with her at New Living Expo, and we're going to look forward to seeing you all then. So thank you so much, Anya. Wow. I don't know about you, but I feel really joyful. I feel really excited about meeting Anya and the work that she does. And I want to thank all of you out there, all of you listeners who are watching, for your curiosity, your openness, your willingness to explore what's possible. And that's exactly what we need going into this next year. And remember, I'm Dr. Joan Hangarter, Joan of Angels. You can always learn more about my work at joanofangels.com. So until next time, everyone, trust what you feel, follow what's true for you, and stay open to the wonder of what's coming. And we'll see you all next time.